I have high standards for pop stars, but it's not my fault. Hello, you are tuned into Starstruck with Big Pink Energy, who is me. Maybe you're here for a chat about pop culture, music news or gossip, or maybe you're here because secretly you're in love with me. Who knows, maybe someone's going to come forward one of these days. I have something a little bit different to talk about today. I am talking about a very exciting, new-ish girl group who is taking the internet by storm. I heard of KATSEYE a couple of months ago. I feel like I've just been hearing about them all year. And I decided it's time to talk about it. So let's get into it. Here's one thing about me. I have high standards for pop stars, but it's not my fault. I was raised by Britney and Destiny's Child, and then Lady Gaga took over from them in like 2009, and I never really grew out of my Lady Gaga phase, as most of you know. But I was invited to see viral international girl band KATSEYE, and as someone who is just obsessed with women in pop, instantly I said yes. It was a no-brainer, and I went along. I felt very lucky to be there. You've probably heard of KATSEYE if you are at all online. Maybe you're not familiar with the girls individually, or maybe you don't know their music super well, but they're definitely a name that has just been dominating the internet this year. They debuted in 2023 following an intense and dramatic survival show called Dream Academy. And in this show, there were 20 girls. All of them were in their teens and their early 20s. And they had to sing and they had to dance and they had to win the hearts of fans online, most importantly, because it was fan voted. And then what they would have to do was survive these eliminations. And then at the end, there were 6 girls left, and those 6 girls were the ones who formed the group. And it was a mix of the fan voting and the label picking who they thought would make the most sense for a pop group. The survival show and what led up to that point was documented with a Netflix series. I have to say, it's a fabulous binge watch. Whether you've seen the girls and you're familiar with their music or not, I really recommend it. It's a good thing to just there's 8 episodes, just put it on in the background and absorb it. It's a fun watch. It's very intense, but I really enjoyed watching the show. But yeah, they've made it so you can watch the show whether you know the girls or not. It's not like you have to know who they are. It's not like watching a pop star documentary where you're just kind of like watching them run through all their songs and stuff. You don't have to know anything about them. The team behind Dream Academy went worldwide when they were casting, whereas traditionally in K-pop survival shows, they might only cast from one or a few countries. It might be like Japan, South Korea, China. It will kind of be around that area, whereas this one was all over the world. They were looking for girls. So in KATSEYE from the States, you have Daniela, who's from Atlanta. You have Megan from Hawaii, Sophia, who's Filipina. You have Lara from India, Manon from Switzerland, and then Yoonchae, who is Korean. She's actually the youngest member of the group. When she was on the show and when she debuted, she was only 15 years old. So they debuted 2 years ago. So they're still very young. But yeah, sadly, nobody British made it into the group of 20 finalists, which, maybe there's still a chance for me if they do Dream Academy 2. I'm here. You know where to find me. You guys know I'm a super, super talented singer and dancer, so... I was very determined. I had good intentions that we would learn this choreography. No! Definitely would be my vibe. I'm a firm believer that teen girls are actually the tastemakers of the general public. People roll their eyes constantly at media made for teen girls, but when you think about it, it actually is them who's deciding what is popular and what isn't. Whether you love her or hate her, the Eras Tour was such a massive pop culture moment because teen girls love Taylor Swift. Chapel Roan, she exploded because teen girls love Good Luck Babe and Pink Pony Club. And then if you look at even RuPaul's Drag Race, Trixie Mattel is definitely one of the most successful contestants to come from that show. And do you know who her fans are? Teen girls. Teen girls are deciding what is hot and what isn't. And I think KATSEYE is what happens when you actually take teen girls seriously. So since the conclusion of Dream Academy, the girls have gone on to create countless viral moments. That's definitely some of my first kind of interactions with KATSEYE, is seeing them on my TikTok feed doing random things. They've played jaw-dropping festival sets across the world. Their Lollapalooza is one I've seen a couple of clips of. It looked amazing. They've released 2 EPs. They've got 5 music videos, and 2 of those singles have charted on the Billboard Hot 100. They've worked with big names in fashion like Fendi and Coach. They have won their first MTV VMA this year. They've featured in publications like Vogue and ID magazine, and they've captured the hearts of young girls around the world. But they hadn't ever performed in Europe until now. The UK fan event in London was their first time performing, and for some of the girls, it was actually their first time even being in Europe. As I say, I felt very, very lucky to be there. Instantly, the crowd at the event stood out to me. Everyone was very, very young. Very young girls, but also it was probably the most diverse audience I'd seen at a show. And also everyone I spoke to was just like really friendly, really nice, had good energy. So it felt like a really nice space. I think this is the genius of KATSEYE being an international girl group modelled after K-pop and not the other way around. Everyone sees themselves in KATSEYE. And I was thinking to myself when I was there, I was thinking like, oh my God, which one am I? Because I was with my friend Kana, and he was like, you know, I'm definitely Daniela, like the hot Latina one. That's definitely me. That's what I see myself. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, which one do I see myself in? And then I realized, oh my God, we have a girl group full of different ethnicities, and we don't have the signature white blonde girl. I didn't even realize until that moment when I was in the room looking around. You know, they had their music videos playing on these massive screens. It all looked amazing inside there. We're so used to white blonde girls in pop, especially in girl groups, yet KATSEYE doesn't feel like it's missing anything by not having one, you know? I was thinking of like Perry in Little Mix, Heidi and the Sugar Babes, Baby Spice, Sarah Harding, Ashley and Kimberly from the Pussycat Dolls. Like there's always usually at least one, but obviously, you know, there's tons of girl groups who like don't follow this formula, you know, but what I'm trying to get at here is I don't think a white blonde girl would fit anyway in the likes of like TLC and Vogue, Flow. Like blonde whiteness would not be out of place in KATSEYE, but they still didn't form the group with that in mind, and they didn't build the group around blonde or whiteness. I have to say, while we're talking about this, shout out to Adela and Emily from Dream Academy, because I think they're both amazing. I can see how they just weren't meant to be in KATSEYE, and that makes total sense to me, but they're still so talented and incredible. I was really impressed by, especially Adela, her star power, and I know some of you in my comments have been like telling me to check out her solo stuff for the last few months, and I have had a look and I think she's incredible. So just to say that here. Anyway, Manon is the only European girl in the group. Daniela was blonde for a while, but you know, that's not what I'm getting at here. The group isn't like, here is our blonde white girl front and center. That's not what KATSEYE is. Anyway, for me, it's not like I need like for like representation in KATSEYE to feel like I can resonate with them or that I can connect with them. Just because I don't see someone who looks like me in that group, I don't feel excluded from being a fan of theirs, you know? I think truly what makes their audience resonate with them is that you're looking at 6 girls, all from different corners of the world. They're coming together to make their dreams come true, and that's the magic. Yes, they are all drop dead gorgeous, but as seen on their Netflix documentary, they work really, really, really hard, and anyone following the K-pop model does. It's honestly quite brutal when you watch it. Some of them have been singing and dancing and performing since they were like 3 years old. So I would say, and I don't mean this to be hyperbolic, I'm being 100% genuine when I say this, I think it's a level of training and discipline that I would compare to Olympic athletes. Because as soon as you're born, you're being trained for greatness, essentially. And looking at how they train people in K-pop, it's like, it's rigorous. It's really intense. So I don't think it's a stretch to say it's like an Olympic level of training for these girls. Anyway, the second thing that I realized at the event was the world building was absolutely on point. And if you know me, you know I love this stuff. Even the little details at the event, like serving bubble tea instead of a signature cocktail, which would pretty much be the standard for this kind of event. I've been to a lot of events and activations because of my job, and I've seen a lot of this kind of thing before. And whenever you go to these things, there's almost always a choice of signature cocktails. There'll be a menu, signature cocktails. There might be like 2 or 3 of them. So for like a KATSEYE event, if I had to predict what would be like the signature cocktail at a KATSEYE event, I would say they'd probably have like a menu, and then one of the cocktails would be called Beautiful, and one of the cocktails would be called Chaos. And then, you know, that ties back to their EP, which is called Beautiful Chaos. They didn't do that. They had bubble tea, and there was like a fizzy grape one, or there was like a peach one, with lychee bubbles in, and it was delicious. And it instantly transport you into the world of KATSEYE. And even as we were walking around, like people were stopping us going, oh my God, where did you get the bubble tea from? It was a really smart move because it feels on brand, but it also speaks to what the fans like. So I thought that was really clever. It's just a small detail, but it's something that I definitely remembered walking out of there, you know? I really do think there's a crucial difference in just having an aesthetic for an album or an era and really building an entire world for it. Lady Gaga did this from day one. Sorry, you guys know I have to talk about Lady Gaga at some point. She is my biggest point of reference for everything. So I promise I'll be quick. But The Fame is its own world. Born This Way is its own world. Chromatica is over on another planet over there. And then Art Pop and Mayhem. These are all different spaces within the Gaga universe. And they're very fleshed out and they're very well thought through. And it's not just like the clothes she was wearing. It's the music and the lyrics, and the music and the lyrics are enough to build that world for Lady Gaga, but she takes it even further. It's the fashion, and it's even the way she talks in interviews during those times. It's all very distinct from each other. I think Lady Gaga is probably the most holistic artist that I've seen when it comes to world building and pop music. I think David Bowie is another great example of this, but I would say from my kind of book of references in my head, Lady Gaga is obviously the best example. KATSEYE are, when we really are just being honest, they're a manufactured group, and that's not me being shady at all. It's literally the K-pop model to put groups together. That's what I mean by manufactured. We saw them compete on Dream Academy to become KATSEYE. We saw the meetings between the record label execs to discuss how they're going to perform this group and how they're going to market them. I don't say this to discredit the girls or their music. I'm just mentioning it as important context. They didn't actually even come up with the name KATSEYE. If you remember that episode of the show, it was just the standout name of like the three choices they were given. They could have been, I still can't believe these names. They could have been New Crazy, or they could have been Dreamscape. Dreamscape to me sounds like a Gen AI tool. Like you can imagine like getting ads for that as you're scrolling Twitter or something, like use Dreamscape now to create blah, blah, blah. That is what that gives to me. And then New Crazy, as soon as I heard that, I was like, don't they already have a group called New Jeans? Like, why would they? Anyway, KATSEYE was obviously the right choice for them. And to be fair to the girls, I actually did read that it was Lara's idea to change the spelling of KATSEYE from a C to a K, which instantly just makes it more chic, more ownable. So props to her for that. I think she, from that alone, I'm like, you've got a great eye for branding. And actually seeing how she responded to the name KATSEYE on the documentary, I was like, she's got a good eye for branding. She knows her stuff. However, whoever created like the telenovela world of Gabriella for the girls, they did a really, really good job. And I loved seeing it brought to life at the event with like the roses they were giving out and the photo opportunities. The video, I also think, is their strongest one so far, and it does feel different to everything they've put out prior to Gabriella. I think so much of the magic of K-pop lies in its videos, to be honest. The big choreography moments are what fans go crazy for, and for me personally, don't hate me for this, for me personally, a lot of K-pop music on its own just doesn't do it for me. But when I see their performances, I cannot look away. Like, I'm glued to it. I'm looking at like their movements, how they're all synchronized. I'm obsessed with like their formations. It's really visually stimulating. I love watching K-pop performances, but yeah, the music to just sit and listen to in my own time, I probably wouldn't put it on, you know, like Blackpink, for example. Great example. They're really cool. I'd love to see them perform sometime. I saw Jennie at Coachella, but in my free time, I'm not sat here listening to Pink Venom. I'm just not. And, you know, I also, with K-pop, and I know this is a bigger conversation and maybe I'm not the right person to be talking about this, but I do find it hard to take some of these conversations seriously because they're flat out calling some of these artists rappers. And when you look at like the hip hop community and you look at hip hop fans, they are like fighting over whether Doja Cat can even be called a rap artist, which for the record, I 100% think she is. She raps incredibly. She's really talented at it. She writes her raps. I don't really know what else people want her to do to be included in that conversation, but that's a whole other thing. My point is, in K-pop, it feels a little bit like we're just handing that title out to everybody when actually it's a little bit more than just like talking fast in a verse. So there's that whole thing. But back to KATSEYE. Gabriella's music video, I think, is their first one to move away from that traditional K-pop formula. There's still choreography in the video, but it's a lot softer, and it's not the selling point of the video. It follows the formula of like more traditional modern Western music videos. You've got a celebrity cameo from Jessica Alba, who looks incredible, by the way. There's an easy to follow storyline. There's a bit of a Sabrina Carpenter-esque sort of like horror movie special effect plot twist. I really enjoyed that. There's stunning looks, and the dancing is just an added bonus, to be honest. That being said, what I think is KATSEYE's biggest strength is undoubtedly their choreography. Maybe this is controversial, but my favourite thing they've done, hands down, and it's not even close, is the Gap advert using Milkshake by Khalees. Watching that ad makes me wish that I was singing and dancing from 3 years old too, because they do a phenomenal job and they make it look fun, right? I'm sure that shoot was tiring as fuck. It looks like it took a lot of time to make that advert, but you know, we see a minute to 30 seconds of this. It wouldn't surprise me if that shoot took days and then even like longer of like months of like pre-planning rehearsals and planning the choreography and the cinematography and all of this stuff. That looks like a lot of work went into that ad, but the girls just make it look like a piece of cake, you know? Seeing the girls on stage at the event was no different. Their moves were completely on point. They were well rehearsed, and it also felt natural. They looked like they were comfortable up there. Some of them, Lara in particular, I felt had really nailed the magic of stage presence. And that's not something that everybody can do. And I don't even know if that's something you can teach, to be honest. I think you can probably practice it and get better at it, but I don't think you can just like, I think it's more of a natural skill than a taught skill. But when a performer has it down, it's just magical. And I think Doja Cat is the best example of stage presence in the new generation of pop girls. Whether she's in a music video or on stage, you cannot take your eyes off of her. She's really, really hypnotizing, even from her early days. Like every movement she makes draws you in. And to watch, she's just completely like magnetic. Lara was the magnet on stage for me this week at the event. Vocals were lovely. They all sounded unfazed by singing and dancing at the same time, which isn't easy, but Lara had the most impressive vocal ability, I thought. On the Dream Academy documentary, she was positioned more of like being a vocal girl, but not so much of a dancer. But seeing her perform, honestly, I'm sold on her as a full package. And she, for me, is the standout member of the group after seeing them perform in person. Her personality also shone in the Q&A section. So yeah, she's cemented herself as my favourite now, officially. She's my bias, as they would say. I also saw she actually wasn't even feeling well. Like, I think she put a message out. They have this like group chat thing with their fans, and she put a message out that said like, you know, she's jet lagged and she's not feeling well. I think she said her throat was hurting, but she's going to push through for the event. You could not see a trace of like fatigue, of sluggishness, of not wanting to be there, nothing. She was so professional and she just looked and sounded really good the entire time. So props to her for that. I think KATSEYE's relationship with authenticity is what's actually going to make or break the group going forward. Their early songs, Debut and Touch, they feel very cutesy girl band, and it's interesting to me that Gnarly is a totally different sound, and that's the one that smashed in the room. Gnarly was definitely the song everyone was screaming loudest for. Like, they would listen, the girls haven't got a lot of music yet, so they were playing the same songs kind of on a loop in the background while we were waiting for the event to start. They were playing 5 songs or 6, and then the girls came on stage, did a Q&A, and then they came out and performed, I think, like 4 out of 5 of those songs. So I've been listening to their music kind of on a loop, and I got to see the crowd response to certain songs in the room. And everyone was excited to hear all the songs, but Gnarly, people were going crazy. People were screaming. And it was like, it was that moment when you go to a concert and the artist plays their biggest song and you just see everyone suddenly like turn up. It was that moment with Gnarly. It was also the first song of theirs that I had heard. So I watched their VMA performance of Gnarly whenever that was, a few months ago. I think it's quite clear how KATSEYE were being marketed in those early days. Even just like the name alone of their first EP is called Sis, and it's spelled SIS, parentheses, soft is strong. It's so on the nose. You almost can't quite take it seriously. It does, to me, just feel like corporate overkill, trying to position these girls as like feminist sisterhood for Gen Z, you know? You can imagine a boardroom of execs just being so overjoyed with that. Like, yeah, we've done it. Soft is strong. The teen girls are going to love this. And Touch and Debut, as much as I actually love those songs, they might be my favourites, especially after the event. Debut hasn't left my head. As much as I love those songs, I definitely think they fit that branding, the soft is strong, cis, girl power kind of branding. Pivoting to Beautiful Chaos is definitely a step in the right direction, I think. But I think whatever comes next for KATSEYE needs to feel like it's genuinely coming from them. You know, it can't just feel like it's another concept that's come from people sat around a table in a boardroom. The girls are going to grow, they're going to get older, their music should flow and change with them. This is something actually I remember Lara pointing out about the name KATSEYE. It allows the group to do that, which I thought was very smart. I worry if they don't like keep on that trajectory, it will get to a point where it just doesn't feel real or true, and the audience is going to stop resonating with them. Because I think that's what resonates for me personally. Like, I saw it on Dream Academy. The girls all want this really, really, really badly. They take it very seriously, and that really shows with how like well rehearsed they are, how on point they are. Gnarly was a TikTok hit, but it doesn't feel like the sort of music they should be making 5 years from now, or even maybe like 3 years from now, to be honest. It's quite girl boss. It works because it's a snapshot of the moment we're in right now. I think if KATSEYE want to future-proof themselves, it's important to not just like be of the moment, but to trailblaze. And for me, that's why Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Doja Cat, Ariana Grande, for me, they are the most interesting women in pop music right now. Nobody else could make a song like Abracadabra. Nobody else could do Cozy or Cards or Eternal Sunshine. It's like, it's quintessentially them. And they're not just following trends in pop, they're like swimming outside of that current. And that's why it's more memorable, and that is the difference between kind of being a flash in the pan and being here to stay. Gnarly, however, that's a made for TikTok song. It's super catchy. It's got memorable and quotable lyrics. The video choreography has made its way into transitions for fans to like recreate and share and do themselves. But a Gnarly 2.0, I don't think would be the right move. The sultrier Gabriella, I think, is a smart choice for them. Still lots of choreography. Still a dance moment, but playing with a new sound and just dipping more into that world building rather than just chasing and following an aesthetic. It's not just, oh, for this song, we're all going to wear roses, or for this song, it's all going to be like rose petal themed and we're going to wear like wedding veils. No, it's building the world. It's deeper than just, we're going to wear this kind of thing for this song. KATSEYE definitely have all the ingredients for something really delicious and tasty. They have beauty, vocals, stage presence, diversity, personality. Now they just need to cook it a little bit, I think. KATSEYE absolutely one to watch, and I'm super impressed from what I saw at the event this week. All the songs have been in my head since I left the event. Just super catchy, very replayable. I'm really excited to see what they do next. Honestly. I'm an icon now. I've been converted officially. As I say, Lara is my bias, but all of the girls I think are really talented and yeah, just beautiful, beautiful, talented, stunning. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your favourite KATSEYE song in the comments. Let me know, maybe you actually don't like K-pop and you're interested in trying something new. If this is your entry into K-pop, I would recommend watching the Netflix documentary, honestly, because I think for me, what sold me on KATSEYE was just seeing the amount of work they put into everything to get to that point where they are so professional and are so slick. I actually really loved seeing how they got there, and that's why I feel more sort of connected with them than I do with someone like Blackpink or BTS, where I've like seen some of their videos, I've heard some of their songs, but you know, I'm not like fully, I would say I'm a bigger fan of KATSEYE just from how I feel now. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Best wishes and kisses, and I'll see you next time. Happy Halloween. Oh, and happy 5-year anniversary to Positions, my favourite Ariana Grande album. Yes, bye.